Hello, everyone, and welcome to Guwahati MuleSoft Virtual Meetup. The topic for our today's session is publish to Exchange and deploy to Cloud 2 using Maven. And the speaker for today's meetup is Shaili and myself, where I will be discussing a half part of the meetup, and Shaili will be showing the half part where she will be demonstrating on how to put it to Exchange and deploy to Cloud. So before we start, some safe harbor statement. So both the speaker and host are organizing this meetup in individual capacity only. We are not representing our companies here. This presentation is strictly for learning purpose only. Organizer or presenter do not hold any responsibility that same solution will work for your business requirement. This presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. Some housekeeping. So we are recording the session and the recording will be uploaded in the meetup page before 24 hours. Okay, and I will also post it in LinkedIn. So you can just move to the meetup page and you can find all the details regarding today's meetup. You all have the mic access, so just feel free to put your questions, whatever you have, either you unmute or you can put it on chats. Just let us make it more interactive so that we can get more out of the meetup. And at last, once the meetup is done, you will get a feedback form, and it is really very important to let us know like what all changes we need to do in our meetup, what all topics you required for our next session, so we can plan it in a more productive way. So just please request you to fill this feedback. So now talking about the organizer speaker. So I'm the organizer for Guwahati meetup as well as a speaker for today. Okay, so I'm just keeping my intro. Along with me, I have a new speaker, Sally, which is taking the meetup, the first meetup for her as a speaker, who will help us to understand how we publish to Exchange and deploy to cloud using Maven. So, Sally, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Um, I am a senior software engineer at Tapiciro, and I have more than 1.5 years of experience. And I'm a certified MuleSoft developer. And this is my first meetup as a speaker. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you, Sally, for accepting my invite, and all the best for today's meetup to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's move to the agenda. So the agenda for our today's discussion is like we'll discuss little bit of some basics of Maven to get a understanding like what's Maven and how we configure and what it do. Then we will move to the demonstration and of how you can put it to Exchange, what all things you need to do or changes you need to do in your application, or what all things are required in order to set a connection from your Maven to your platform Exchange, and how you can deploy it. Okay, so let's start. So let's start with Maven. So before starting, I would like to ask from the team, from the attendees, like what they are understanding from Maven. So anyone would like to unmute and say like what they understand about Maven? Anyone? Just you can unmute and you can speak it out. Anyone want to try?
Yeah, so I mean, it's basically a tool provided by Apache to
Hmm.
basically, manage all the projects. We can
Hmm.
generate archetypes, which means, basically by management, we means we can generate the structure. After
Correct.
generating the structure, we can, manage the projects like,
Hmm.
manage the life cycle. I mean, if I'm saying managing, if
Hmm,
I
hmm,
want
hmm.
to, basically build, install, it has life cycles attached to it. It has
Correct. Correct.
pom.xml file which have, which is the most important thing. So by
Hmm.
management we mean that it manage all the dependencies. When I say pom.xml, it means all your dependencies and plugins will be on pom file. So
True.
you can, it's not only for again MuleSoft. Maven is for, you can use it for Java. It is basically
For
to manage the project.
yes, for any extended one, it's not related to only MuleSoft, but anywhere where you're doing some integration or development that can be used over there. That's true. Exactly what it is. So what's Maven is? Maven is basically a build tool which help us to build code in different environments, and a project management tool to generate repos, dependency managements, or etc. As what explained by our attendee. Okay, so this is what Maven do. Okay, so what are the common activities of Maven? Okay, so multiple jars, dependency as versions, project structure, it build, publish, and deploy. So multiple jars, like suppose we have multiple dependencies, okay, in our POM, which we need to get it to our application. So suppose I have created an application where I am using some certain of dependency which is needed in the application, and someone else is now taking it from me and they want to run it in their system, suppose, or I need to deploy it somewhere in cloud. So how the dependency will be downloaded, from where I will get it. So that's what Maven do for us. There are some repository information from where it downloads the dependency, that downloads the jar which are required in the application. Okay, and it help us to build and run the applications. So there can be multiple jars, so we cannot have a track individually or manually for all the dependencies. So once we give the details in the pom.xml of all the dependencies, so Maven help us to get all those jars and run the application. Again, in that content we have got different versions for that dependencies. Okay, and one dependency can have a dependency of other dependency, other jar. So uh, Maven take this all. Okay, it takes that job and it downloads everything with respect to the versions which has been provided. So it take care of everything, we don't need to do anything. Also, it creates the project structure, like what structure we need. Okay, and then it help us to build, publish, and deploy, which we are going to show you in our coming discussion. Now let us understand something about Maven structure. Okay, so just now we have talked about archetype. So what structure we have for Maven? We have a Maven repository. Okay, so what is Maven repository? That is of three types. One is your local, one is your remote, and one is your central. So your local repository is basically your .m2. Okay, so this is how your repository looks like. It is a local repository. So once you download anything, so you can see everything in your local repository, so that if the same dependency need to be used to some other application, you don't need to download it again and again. Everything will be there in your local repository. Okay, then next, a remote repository, like suppose if something is specific to your API or project, so we can have a Nexus repository or JFrog where we keep our project specific dependency and we want it to get it from there. Okay, so that is your remote, and central is like what is provided by Maven. Okay, so we already have a central repository where you can search anything which is related uh, with that. Like for MuleSoft, if I want, I can search it over here and I can see anything related to all the dependency which is related to MuleSoft, which I can get it from here. Okay, now if I see for this connector, these are the dependencies and the versions which I can see. Like I can copy this and put it into my POM, and it is also showing like from which repository it is coming from. Okay, also if you'll see in your application, in your POM, we can see some repository information, because when we are creating this Mule applications, we are putting some dependencies over here. So where to get this dependency? So already we have some repository options or details from where it can get it. Okay, so what is this archetype? So the archetype, it defines about different type of project or folder structure which is required, okay, to structure your project. So if you'll use this command, okay, on the command prompt, then you can find there are predefined archetypes which you can see, okay, in which we also have something for Mule. So MVN. Okay, so once you use this command, it will show you all the archetype which are already present. Okay, and there are a lot of archetypes. Okay, so it is showing all this. Now you can find we have something for Mule as well over here. Yes. So this is, see, these are the archetypes which are already present for our Mule, which we can use. Like if you have ever created any custom connector. So this is the archetype which we generally used, the extension one, which we generally use to create a structure for the uh, custom connector. Okay, then the dependency infos, like I have already shown you, there are different type of repository where we can have our dependency information. So this all comes under your Maven repository. Then we have directory structure, group ID, artifact ID, and POM. Okay, so it also contains all this information about how your directory structure should be. Okay, then what is your group ID? So for your specific application, you can see in the POM you can give some group ID. At present, this is by default what we use, but if you have an organization, and you can give your org ID over here. So whenever you try to deploy, install, or deploy it, it will use that group ID, okay, in order to deploy in that particular org. That's what the use of that org ID. Artifact ID is the name of your application. You can say on which you want to create a package for that. Depending on this ID, you will create a package. Then POM, already we know about POM XML, which contains all this information, which helps Maven to get a one-stop solution where it can load everything from one POM and perform the activities. Okay, this is what the structure of Maven. Then Maven build. So like every other life cycle, we have a Maven build life cycle as well. Okay, which contains like your compile, test, package, deploy, install. Okay, so how the build life cycle for Maven works is it consists of different phases, which we'll talk about. Okay, there are some default phases. So when you run one phase, it contains the previous phase as well. Okay, so these are some of the common phases. We almost have 7 to 8 phases, but these are some of the common phases which we use, like validate, compile, test, package, install, and deploy. So what validates does, it validate whether you have all the project structure properly or not. Okay, compile, it compiles your project to see if there is any project related errors, like you have a connectivity which is not proper, or you have given some extra credentials which are not in proper shape. So whenever you run your application or debug your application, you can see there is a build success phase. Okay, that means it is compiling it over there to see if there is any issue. Okay, so like I have this application over here. If I run this, okay, so build success. So what it does, it has compiled the application checking if there is any project related errors. Now suppose you have defined a key. Okay, you have encrypted your properties file and you have defined that key in your secure property with a dynamic value, say key, but you have not given the key value. You have not set the environment key value over there. So it will compile, but it will fail, saying what? Saying that, okay, didn't found the key. Okay, but it checks the structure, like everything is working fine or not. That's what the compile do. Okay, then come the test. So the test is basically to check your units. So whenever you create your units and if you run it, it will first compile your application and then it will run the test cases. Okay, so when you do the test case, you have not defined, okay, you need to compile it or not, but it is the property of this phases. It is the property of this phases, like when you run one phase, it includes all the phases which is prior to it, which should be previous. So it is working in this priority level itself. So validate, it's the first one, then it is compile, then it is test, then it is package, then install, then deploy. Okay, so if I create a minute for this and if I again run it, the test case will also run together and it will show you over here. Okay, whether what is the test result, how many success, how many failed. Okay, all that it will show. At present I don't have a test case, so it is not showing me any record. Okay, but it works on that. So let me show you over here. If I go to this application, okay, if I go to my CMD and if I do mvn clean test. Okay, so it will show me the result, like the build success. That means it has compiled, it has checked. There is no test case, so it is not giving me any report. But if there will be any test case, it will show me the report, like how many success or how many failure. Okay, then comes this package. So if all the above execution successful, then package execute, and it will package the code in the format which you have defined in the code, like .jar, .var, or the mule application. Okay, so you can see in your POM again, you have defined a packaging structure, like it should be a mule application. So when you use that command, it will package that as a mule application. Okay, then install. So this install is like it will install your this application in your local repository, not into the server. Okay, it will be in your local repository, so that when you deploy, it will take the information from either that local repository, it will use that package, and then it will deploy wherever you have defined it on the server. Okay, or maybe in your remote repository if you want to do it, so it will define over there. So now suppose if I use the install option over here. Okay, so let me first show you the path. So the path will be com.mycompany. Okay, then which will contain the name of this application, the artifact ID, and a jar file to this. So let me first see, do I have any my company over here? Okay, I don't see any my company, so let me perform this operation, mvn clean install. Okay, so once I do it, okay, see, now the my company is created, and I have this, I got this particular application. Okay, with this name, this is the combination of my artifact ID, my version, and the packaging which I have used. Okay, so this is how your install works. Now next come the deploy part. This is used when you need to deploy it, as I said, to some remote repository, or in our case we are going to deploy it in our platform. Okay, in the exchange as well as in the CloudHub 2.0. So that is where the deploy command will be used for us. Okay, and that is where Shaili will be demonstrating like how these commands are used. So before we go to the next part, anyone have any question?
Abhishek, will we have something about what is a little bit introduction to CloudHub 2.0 and how it is different, or it will be just deploying the application to CloudHub 2.0?
Uh, Mostly it will be just on the deployment part. So let us first deploy it. Then at the end, we can have some discussion on how it is different from Cloud 1 and Cloud 2. Okay. So let us have this publish part and deployment part, and then I will tell you some points which are different from each other, how it makes a different from Cloud 1 and Cloud 2. Okay. That works.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So Shaili, you can start sharing and you can explain your part now.
Yes, I will share my screen.
Yep.
Is it visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see how we deploy to CloudHub 2.0. Now, CloudHub 2.0 is different from CloudHub, the older CloudHub. It is a recently launched, fully managed. So it is a containerized integration platform as a service. So in this, each Mule instance is run in the separate container, which provides us isolation boundary. So yeah, that is a brief intro about what is CloudHub 2.0. Now, there are some prerequisites to deploy to CloudHub 2.0. The let me- there are some prerequisites. So the first one is the Mule Maven plugin required to deploy should be greater than 3.7.x. So let me show you uh, in the pom.xml. We have the Mule Maven plugin, so it should be greater than 3.7.x because Maven plugin greater than that only supports the deployment for CloudHub 2. And the second one prerequisite is that the application should be published to Exchange first. Now, this is the new requirement. Now, why it is necessary to publish to Exchange is because the CloudHub 2 is very tightly coupled with Exchange. So while deploying to CloudHub 2.0, it will look for the asset in exchange. If the asset that we will be deploying is not present in the exchange, then it will fail. So also furthermore, if you make any change in your code and you want to deploy it again to CloudHub 2.0 using Maven, you need to again increase the version that is present here and then deploy to Exchange. After deploying it to Exchange, then you need to deploy it to CloudHub 2.0. So yeah, these two are the prerequisites which needs to be completed, or else it will give you errors. So yeah, so I have made the change for CloudHub 2.0. As you saw, the Mule Maven plugin is greater than 3.7.x. So the next step, that is publish to Exchange. Now let's see how do we publish it to Exchange using Maven. So step one is to add the group ID as your organization ID in the form.xml. So this is the form. This is the group ID tag. Here we need to add the organization ID. So to get the organization ID, you can go into your account, MuleSoft account, and then here in the access management, you can see all the business groups. So for example, I have here the demo INC. By clicking on it, you will be able to see the organization ID here. So yeah, this is important to specify the organization ID in this tag.
Uh,
And
sorry to interrupt, Sally. Can you go back to studio? One more point: how to get your org IDs. Now, suppose if you don't have the access to that environment, so can you go to the platform again, Shaili?
yes,
Uh, just click on that three lines, the menu. Yes. Click on any point platform, the name itself at the top.
okay, yes,
Yes. So see at the URL you can see there that's
yeah,
the organization ID again. Okay. So once you log into your platform, so in the URL itself you can get the organization ID. So you don't need to go to the access manager itself again to get that. You can get it from here as well.
Thanks,
yes,
Abhishek.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Shali.
yeah. So the second step is adding the distribution management tag. So this tags needs to be added in your form.xml so that it knows uh, where we have to publish the asset. So this is the ID that we have given. This ID is very important because the same ID we have to specify in the settings.xml so that it will take the credentials for the repository and deploy accordingly. So yeah, this is the second part, and this is how the tag looks, the distribution management tag. Then we also need to add, if you have added this ID exchange to, then we need to add one more repository in the repository section. We need to add one more repository with the same ID to deploy it to Exchange. So after adding these two tags, we can deploy it to Maven. So yeah, using this command. Uh, okay, let me show how it is done. So I have in my form.xml, I have added the group ID, the distribution management tag also, and I have also added the repository tag. So all the requirements are completed. So let me deploy. So the version which I have already deployed this version to Exchange. Let me try to deploy it again and see what error we give. It gives. This is the command to deploy your asset into Exchange.
Yeah. So to do this, it's advised like you have to give the path of your project wherever your project is. Like for Shaili, it is stamp one demo employee API. Demo employee API is her project name, and the location is stamp one in her C drive. Okay, so you need to have like you need to select that directory, and there you need to perform this operation or this command in order to do this deployment.
Yeah.
Abhishek, don't we need to specify settings file also, or is it the
Y-
credentials are in global Maven?
No, here we
Uh,
have used that. Okay, we'll explain on that. We need to have a settings file, okay,
yeah.
which will contains the information about the credentials you are using to connect with your servers, like the Anypoint platform. So over in the screen you can see like this is the settings file over here, which contain the server details, okay, and other information like what are the profiles we are using.
Yeah.
So
So in
that
my settings, yeah,
yes,
go
so
ahead,
that
Abhishek.
that need to be in your, like wherever you have your .m2 repository. Along with that you need to have your settings file. Okay, and to check which settings file you are using, there is a command which you can put in your command prompt, and you can do it either with an administrator role or a normal one. That is mvn space help colon effective hyphen settings. So once you do this, this will let you know what settings you are using, so that you can track to the correct settings which is required. Okay.
Okay, I think if M2 settings not present, it will refer to the global Maven, right?
Yeah.
The settings which present in
Correct,
global.
correct. Because in your studio, like when you do in your studio, you can define which repository you need. Okay. So you can specify like, okay, which one you need, and you can use that global one. Yeah. Thank you for adding that point.
Yeah. So in my settings, I have used the connected app credentials. So what is a connected app? And connected app is an application that has been registered and authorized to access only the resources and APIs which are within the Anypoint platform itself. So with the use of this connected app, what you can do is you can delegate some of the access without sharing any credentials. So yeah, so this connected apps, by employing this connected app, what you do is you are not giving all the access, and it offers more secured way to control all the authentication part for the external application. Let me
Yeah. So basically, instead of giving your username and
use,
password in your settings file, you can give the credential of this connected app over there.
yeah,
Okay. And so suppose if you are doing CI/CD also, like as Shaili has explained, we need to publish it to Exchange. So the same connected app credentials can be used in your CI/CD. Okay, as we are using the settings file, which will help you so that it will secure. No one have to share their username password in the settings file and give it to others. Also, it will be quite secure where you're providing some limited access to the other users. Yeah,
yes.
Shaili, please go on.
Yes, so that's why I've used the connected app, and also using this command is where you can see your settings file. This is the contents of my settings file. Here I have the client and the password, the connected app credentials, and as you can see, I've specified the ID, which I've used in the distribution management tag. So yeah, let's see the deployment. Okay. So, so I have already published the asset to exchange. So the asset is not visible when you open the exchange. The asset will not be visible to you. So if you want to see the published asset in the URL, you have to type question mark type equal to app. So it will show you all the assets. So here, this one is the asset demo employees API, and you can see I have deployed previous versions also. So 1.0.5 is already present. So yeah, it has failed, saying that we have a conflict. So it is very important, if you make any change, you need to increase the version every time and then only deploy it to Exchange. Yeah. So let's try this again. Yeah. While this is deploying, let's look at the next thing. So these are the few steps to deploy to Exchange. After it is deployed are two prerequisites, that is the Maven Mule plugin version greater than 3.7x and publishing to Exchange are completed. We can now finally deploy it to CloudHub 2.0. So to deploy to CloudHub 2.0, we need to add its configuration. The configuration, there are these are few values, tags that we have to specify in the configuration. So let me show you the configuration. This is the configuration for CloudHub 2 deployment. So as you can see, this provider is set to MC for the CloudHub 2 deployment. The environment I have specified here as sandbox. So whatever environment you have, uh, that you need to specify, and with the same name, there shouldn't be any small case or like that. So I've given a sandbox. The target, um, there are 12 regions where you can specify the target. So for example, I'll show you my target here. So this is my target out of those 12, and the other is the Mule version that I've taken from runtime, app runtime, and server. The server should be same that we specify in the distribution management tag. So as shown before, the server I have specified the ID as Exchange 2. Therefore, the server should also be the same. The application name I've given as this, and the business group ID will be your project group ID. Yeah, and replicas, how many replica I want, I've kept it as 1. The vcore I've used 0.1. In the default settings, I have given this property, that is generate default public URL. So it will automatically generate its URL. Yeah, and this is one new feature, that is secure properties. Before in CloudHub, to secure any property in any point platform, we used to specify that in the artifact JSON. Yeah. Here in the artifact JSON, we used to specify all the properties, but in the CloudHub 2, there is no need to specify explicitly in the artifact. We can directly give it under this tag, that is secure properties. And the properties tag will have the other properties which you don't want to encrypt. Yeah. So let me see if it is deployed. Yeah, it is successfully deployed to Exchange. And if we go and check, let me refresh this. The latest one version should be 1.0.6. So yeah, next. Now we can deploy. Our application has completed all the prerequisites, so we can deploy it to CloudHub 2.0. This is the command that we use to deploy. Let me give it here. And also let me add the secure properties, that was secret key, and any other property. And
So basically, this is like whatever property you have defined in this Cloud 2 deployment, Cloud Hub 2 deployment tags, which are dynamic. you need to provide it over here so that it can take that properties. Also, there is a question like for what is MC in that provider. So that refers to micro. Okay, there are different worker types like we define like on what vCores we need to deploy it. So it refers to that. Correct, Sally?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've also shared a link, a blog link where you can see what are the different provider types in the worker type tab in that link.
Yes. So, yeah. Mule spelling.
It should be hyphen D, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the command. So I've provided for the secure properties. I've provided secret.key. So we use that and given the value as mule test. So this should be encrypted when we deploy it to CloudHub. That's it. Enter and let it deploy. One more change is that the status in CloudHub 2.0 shows running. Previously, it shows as started for the CloudHub version 1
Correct. So in CloudUp 1, it was started and now it is running.
running.
And in this, we have two things. We have shared space, we have private space. Okay,
Yes.
we have options for rollback, rolling. Okay, so a lot of things has been changed. So it is basically kind of RTF thing now. Okay, which have a container.
So yeah, applying configuration. Yeah. So here you can see the updates.
Yeah, so now it is trying to deploy the code. That's why in the runtime, you can see it is applying. Go back to runtime again, Shaili.
Yes.
So yeah, in below the name of the application, you can see it is applying the configuration. Can you click on the status, view status? Okay, so this is what it is doing. It is trying to activate another replica. So earlier in Cloud 1, we see it as worker, but in Cloud 2, it is replicas. Okay, so it is trying to apply a new replica to this.
Yes.
So if it is only one replica on
Mhm,
point one vcore,
mhm.
and yeah, let's say it is still applying or deploying. So while deploying, our request will still go to the previous worker
Yes.
or previous replica.
Yes, yes. Again, in this, we have two different things for Cloud 2. Okay, there is a rolling option. Okay, so there are two modes. One is when it is applying, it will keep it
Yeah.
rolling, the first replica, and then putting it to the second one. Okay,
Okay.
and the other one is it will stop the first one and it will do the second one. That is recreate. Okay, so by default, yes, we are using rolling update. Okay, by default, when you do it, it
Got it.
chooses rolling update.
Yes.
Yeah. But recreate might be useful in a case where we, just want to hold the process and don't want any request going back to the previous worker for maybe security or maybe some other conflicting
Yeah,
rules
it
or
No.
depends
whatever.
on your requirement, like how you need to use it. That's why we have two options. So if you want like everything should stop, no one can hit it, then yes, you can do that recreate one.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, it is deployed. Here we can see the latest deployment. Okay. Build success. Here. Let me try and hit the endpoint. Yeah. I'm getting the response as 200 okay and the response. And let me show you the uh, secure properties. Here in the properties tag, we can see the secret key. It has been protected, and we can see the mule.env that I gave as dev. So this protected value, if you want to get that again, there is no way. So make sure you have the value stored somewhere. you cannot edit this. You have to delete it and then again, right, give the value. Yeah. So yeah, that's all. Any questions?
Yeah, now we can have a question. Maybe can you put in your slideshow? Let us talk
Yeah.
about other things. So there are some references which I have already shared in the chat. Okay. Sally has already written a blog which I've also shared. So you can go through that blog and you will get all those information which we have explained over here. Okay. So you can go to the next slide, Shelly, please.
Yes.
Okay, go to next slide.
Next.
Yeah, next.
Okay.
Okay, so if